Okay. I actually do see. I don't see the stream on LinkedIn yet, but I'm sure it's coming. Ah, it's working. No way, right?
It's working.
Okay, so we'll just start. I mean, it's the first ever live video podcast session where we're doing it on air. We're going to be embarrassed. I'm going to pick my nose. We're going to call to editors to fix it. And then realize, oh, no, it's live. So, yeah,
It's going to be awful.
all that stuff.
It's going to be great. I can't
happen.
wait.
Yes. So, our guest today is Rafa Loss, and I will just let you introduce yourself because we did it in the video. It's more fun that way. And in the description, I said, it's of the Down the Security Rabbit Hole podcast fame. And I think Raf questioned this. So, but
oh, no, he's famous. He's got like 580 episodes of a security podcast. The man is famous.
Am I famous? Or as the movie once quote goes, am I infamous?
That, I think, is beyond my ken to answer.
Indeed. Same here. So I want to start. This is the topic for this is, of course, cloud and cloud security. And a good number of years ago, Rahul had a very fun blog post called A Little Truth About the Cloud. And when I mentioned it to him, he said, oh, that was 2020, as if it was like 2008 or something.
Wasn't that last year?
No, that's not last year. That's 3 years ago.
Oh, God.
And so in that post, there's some thinking and themes that kind of started this whole, show on the road. And one bit is that you mentioned that you still see organizations that see cloud as kind of essentially a rented data center, kind of and even for 2020, it would be a little strange, but do you still see that? You talk to clients, you talk to organizations, you talk to people in the industry. Do you still see this? And how do security leaders, how do you explain to security leaders that they should stop doing this? Cloud isn't a rented column.
That's
demonically.
I love that you give me a nice easy intro and then like a simple question to start off with. Nice softball. All right. Well, I guess we're going to dive in. All right. So do I still see that? I think less so, which is a good sign. Although, I've been in this gig with Extra Hop since July of last year, July 1. In my previous role, I probably saw, which is kind of when I wrote this, if you look at the on percentage, right, I'd say 7 out of 10 at that point were using cloud as a colo somewhere else, where they didn't actually have to manage the hardware anymore. Now, different type of company here, different type of customer. I'm seeing a lot of a thoughtful transition to the cloud. So I would say that the thoughtful transition to the cloud in terms of an actual, don't hate me for saying this, digital transformation of the organization is a real thing. Is there a bingo card? Are people drinking at the moment? How's this go?
That's a shot right there.
Well, at least you didn't say zero trust, because somebody dared to question me on Twitter for using zero trust as a verb. What can possibly be more normal than using zero trust as a verb? Can't we all just zero trust it?
Oh.
Okay, so fine. You're trying to say that the person was right for making fun of me because you're making like cringy faces.
I think Anton, I think in general, people making fun of you is always fun. Because not just only because you're a recovering analyst, but it's just fun.
He takes
look now. I have now heard cloud zero trust.
Cloud zero trust. At least it's not a blockchain zero trust. I'm okay with cloud zero trust.
How's that different than regular zero trust?
I don't make up the acronyms. I just make fun of them.
Got it. Anton actually makes up the acronyms. That's why he's so fun to make fun of.
I used to. Like, it's not my job anymore to make acronyms.
You used to.
So let's actually, I think that, Tim, go.
Go ahead, please.
No, it's your question is next. So actually, it's kind of your turn.
Yeah. Well, that's what I wanted
And
to do.
by the way, we
I
do
wanted-
do that in recordings, but editors fix it. So now you're seeing us do it, and editors would fix it
See,
in recording.
now
but not
this
here.
is the raw, unedited Anton.
But
and
is it
Tim
good or bad?
experience.
Okay, fine. Tim,
Anton
ask the
uncut.
question.
So
Ask
a
the
lot
question.
of people, including former analysts, have said, "Oh, cloud is secure, but clients just aren't using it securely." What's your reaction to that? Is that like saying lava is safe to walk on if you wait long enough for it to cool down?
I love it. I love that so much. I'm going to use that later. That's the same thing as saying, you know, every car is safe as long as you don't get in it and drive too fast. You know, look, I think the mechanisms. Let me rewind this. Having seen the PowerPoints of cloud architecture and the shared services model, shared responsibility model floating around when it was first a PowerPoint slide being circulated as a concept, I think what I can tell you for a fact is that in theory, the cloud is likely more secure than just probably 90 some odd % of the companies that go to it, their previous infrastructure. That being said, the potential entry points into that environment can become catastrophic. So
say more about what you mean there.
Wait, yeah, I'm puzzled a little bit.
A little bit. That's not surprising. I do this to you on purpose. No. No. So think about it this way. A customer that has a single data center, a single office, lots of compute in that data center, physical servers, protected by a relatively good M&M style security model where it's hard shell, some squishy stuff in the middle. And then you take that and say, okay, I'm going to move a bunch of these servers, because we can't say applications yet. I'm going to move a bunch of this compute into the Amazon, Google, Microsoft, all of those clouds at the same time. Now, is this a better situation or a worse situation? Well, I think it's better because inherently those infrastructures are much more likely to be modern, right? From a designed for security perspective.
Mm-hmm.
However, the crap they're putting in it, definitely not, right? So you took an application, a monolithic app that was never designed to defend itself or even have any concept of security because they had firewalls and WAFs and all sorts of stuff behind it. And now you stick it into the Google Cloud. And while the backend Google infrastructure takes a pretty good attempt at doing security on the whole, that application without intent, without actually intentionally engineering it to be put in that computer environment, is like out, you know, it's I've used this analogy before and it's kind of weird, but it makes the point. Like when we were little kids and then a Halloween, you'd stick your hand in a box and they tell you, oh, those are eyeballs. They're really wet grapes, but you don't know, right? You're sticking your hand in a box and going, that is what you're doing to your compute, right? If you don't know what you're doing. And the problem is the rate at which we're creating cloud aware architects, application architects, and security architects and architects in general is, I think, at least an order of magnitude too small to the need that we have, which creates, to me, like I 2 jobs in a row, I lost lots and lots of really smart guys and gals from a sales, pre-sales, engineering, all that, in an MSP type of environment, to Amazon because they paid, and I kid you not, 2.25 times more than I could possibly pay them. So they would get their cloud certs and poof, they're gone. I mean,
but
that's
also
great for
reminds us
them.
that cloud is tricky if you don't know cloud, but if you do know cloud, you join a cloud provider. So I think that it's kind of a sort of a vicious, or maybe virtuous if you're a cloud provider, circle when the best talent, you need talent that knows cloud. And when you train your talent in cloud, they join the cloud provider.
They go to the cloud, yes.
That's an interesting thought.
So we've had this debate before about security onions versus security garlic. Do you see people doing at all okay at doing identity security right in the cloud, or is that just like complete alien sauce to people?
Look, I had I'll give you an anonymized story. I had a customer say, "Hey, we figured this out. We a couple of roles ago. We were pitching them the idea of CSPM. So this has been a couple of years. They came back and said, no, we got this all right. Like, this is all native. We don't do any legacy kind of stuff. All our identity stuff is done. We federate. We've got the roles and permissions." And somebody reminded one of my pre-sales engineers reminded them there's like, I forget what the number was. It's like 1,000 or some crazy amount of different roles and combinations thereof.
Yep.
And then you heard this silence, and they go, maybe a checkup would be a good idea. So this is I feel like in the quest to do better security, cloud was engineered with every possible option, right, to do it right. And then we hand it to the customer and go ahead. Here is a massive box of Legos. Good luck.
Right. So this is like I kind of 2/3 agree to that.
Kind of 2/3. What
Yeah,
does that
2/3
mean,
agree.
Anthony?
That's
Like
Anton
I'm
softening it before he tells you you're an
no.
idiot.
I am mostly in agreement with that. But
Okay.
1/3 is that my sense is that if you're doing things kind of in a true cloud native way, you are not really using some of the bolts and nuts that are meant to make your VMs run in the cloud better. And these are usually the slightly more problematic pieces in terms of talent and training. But if you're doing things from scratch in a modern way, you may not be suffering from the complexity. And again, the reason why I'm doing this, by the way, is of course of the 8 Megatrends blog post ultimately by my boss, right, Phil Venables, right? And Phil makes a really good argument in that post that says that if you are using cloud in a modern way, you are actually enjoying cloud simplicity, not cloud complexity. And that's the third where I was like, yeah, but if you're doing it this way, then you're actually using cloud security and you're gaining the benefits.
You have to know that it's there to be able to use it, to take advantage of it. Like this is
back to skills.
Like this is so do you guys remember when we said we're going to turn on disable people from publishing S3 buckets? Because that's what every example everybody's, the open S3 bucket. So Amazon went, fine, no more open S3 buckets. Every developer went, this is too hard, open S3 bucket.
Yeah. That's how you do guardrails wrong, right? If you have guardrails that's too restrictive, everybody just says, what's the polite term for I hate you. I hate you, and and we're doing it our way. Yes, this is kind of the story. But actually, here's the possibly more useful angle to this. Well, actually, this was useful, and the more useful angle. What do we even mean when we say, "Hey, cloud infrastructure is solid, it's epic. You are just not using it securely"? And people say, "Agree, disagree," but nobody thinks, what does use it securely even means? So for example, how about don't use any of the less secure migration models? Like that's part of it, not part of it. How about
but a bad cloud migration model? That's not something you can evaluate with software. That's not a bad firewall site. That's
right,
so
exactly,
abstract.
fine. So what do you mean? So when you hear somebody says, use cloud securely, what comes up in your mind? Like maybe we should run a classic Anton's 3 a.m. test. If somebody wakes up at 3 a.m. and says, wake up, what do you mean by use cloud security? What would you say? What's your first reaction?
So this is when somebody says, if somebody were to do that to me, I would immediately think of the mechanisms that are built in, the guardrails that are in the cloud itself. So doing things like turning on logging, doing things like turning on some of the default features, designing in when you talk about cloud security, it's not just a security mechanism. It's not taking a monolithic VM out of your environment, sticking it someplace else, right? It's actually potentially redesigning the thing to operate in a different model. It's looking at network security, right? So figuring out like what's the autonomous thing that you're trying to defend and protect, and what are the capabilities sort of around that thing. And far from me to say I claim expertise in all the cloud native security tooling, but I can tell you it's not something you add on later. And the problem is, you guys remember we said, hey, you can't bolt on security later. It turns out in infrastructure, you actually probably could, and you could be about 75% successful. If you try that in the cloud, you are, I'd say your odds of being successful are less than 25%. Why?
But people bring up even the packet capture appliances, hint, NDR to the cloud, right? Like we're going to ask you a question about it, but like, isn't it an example of somebody bringing his 1990s luggage, like firewalls and IDS and like other stuff to the cloud, an example of that? You
have to Anthony, you got to separate the concept from the implementation. The way I don't think there's anything wrong with saying firewalls in the cloud. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying IPS, NDR, and endpoint security in the cloud, but it's fundamentally different than what it was previously. Firewalls were a physical appliance that sat what's that, Tim?
Endpoint security in the cloud. Well, we're gonna have to pick on how we make that.
No,
you can come back to that.
You can't not have EDR, right? Oh wait, you don't have an endpoint. Holy cow! How would you do that?
Well, and that's the thing, right? So but you do it differently. It's not an agent that you install somewhere. How do you do endpoint security? It's by watching your VPC, by looking at individual, whatever your autonomous units are. And if that autonomous unit is a function, you have to completely rethink what is the endpoint there, right? Like, okay, it's a function or it's a piece of code that runs once a minute to do a batch job. So it's really AppSec, isn't it? Like it's the concepts I think translate because I think, guys, the fundamental principles of security haven't changed since I got into this thing 25 years ago. Yes. You looked at, the user, the infrastructure, and the data, right? And its applications. And then you're like, oh, well, we had a system, right? Via a VMS VAX, an Acer Altos, old Novell network.
You're not that old, by the way. VMS? Really? You're not that old. You don't look that old. Fine, I'll go with that.
Hey, I age gracefully. I don't know. Maybe it's this beautiful Atlanta weather. No, but like I vaguely recall the days of when we had a 20 megabyte hard drive that all the corporate data going back years lived on.
It was like, he is that old. Tim secretly to himself.
Yeah, Tim. Old. Yeah, okay. That's right. I'm pretty good for 55 right now.
I'm making the silliest faces right now. I've never heard of a 20 megabyte hard drive. I've never...
And they were like shoebox size. I mean, these things... And you had to wait after you powered down. You had to park the heads first, then power the device down, and wait for it to stop spinning. Because if you jolted it ahead of time, it's like a scratch on the record, and you're done. You're toast. It may never power back up again. Yeah, we're not gonna like nostalgia is a different episode.
Like stop going there and come back. Yes.
So
yeah, the nostalgia is a different episode.
This bolt-on versus built-in thing, because I think this is really interesting, and not just because I have personally built endpoint security into the cloud. I think that's great. That's literally what one of my teams does, and it's a fascinating challenge every day. I also want to say Anton must have the world's worst alarm clock. Every day Anton must get woken up by the alarm clock going, Anton, it's 3 a.m. How do we secure the cloud? That's got to be terrible. I want to shift gears though, right? That's surely how he lives. It's the only explanation.
It's a hypothetical question. It's like Einstein riding on a beam of light kind of thing, not like literally somebody wakes me up at 3 a.m. Even though my 4-year-old did today. She didn't ask about the cloud security, but like, hey, separate story.
I tell you what, if your 4-year-old starts asking about cloud security, Anton, something's wrong.
I do want to shift gears though and talk about CISOs in clouds. And we had Gary on the show a couple weeks ago, and he was a pretty big fan of the cloud for really interesting reasons. Do you meet CISOs who are like active cloud security fans? People who are like, yes, we got to move to the cloud for security reasons.
I do, and I think those are the same people that recognize that the world is fundamentally changing, and business has to change to be competitive. And they've seen 2-3 decades of legacy IT technical debt, and they see the cloud as a chance to wipe a lot of that out. Now, what they don't tell you is they're secretly praying to whatever deity they believe in, that the business allows those applications and those infrastructure components to be re-engineered to be cloud native, as opposed to taking 1,000 Windows servers, making them VMware virtual machines, and sticking them in the cloud, because that's not what you're hoping for.
Yeah, so it's a little bit like a deluge, and they get a Noah's Ark, and they hope not to have the Windows servers onto the Ark.
Which reminds me, by the way,
yes.
we really, it's like a conversation's going well, but somebody on LinkedIn pointed out in comments that he really did have one of those drives. So he's probably at least as old as Rafal, but probably way older than Tim. This is my suspicion. I'm not going to disclose my relationship to 20 megabyte hard drives so that my age would remain a mystery. But ultimately, yes.
Those are. I remember when 640K of memory was an impressive feat. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Moving on.
So you're to summarize your response briefly. You did need security leaders who would say, I want to go to cloud. Cloud's more secure. It's better for me. It's more maybe easier to operationalize security. Maybe it's easier to do other things. So you've met CISOs who actually genuinely think cloud is a superior way for them.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
I've met several of them, and they get excited. Like I said, they get excited about the opportunity. Where they're absolutely tenuous and terrified is in the execution, right? Because if that execution doesn't have security as a stakeholder in the redesign, if there is no redesign, I think it actually their nightmares come, right? As opposed to their dreams, their nightmares come true, and it actually is worse. So I feel like this is that path in the Choose Your Own Adventure book, where you can go to the swamp of despair or the hills of hilarity, and you have to pick one. You can't go down the middle, and you go, all right, well, the hills of hilarity sound like a great place to be. Now, is that people laughing with me or people laughing at me? I don't know. Let's try it. And so cloud, to a lot of CISOs, is an opportunity to say, okay, let's redo this. Let's fundamentally rethink what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it. And then let's sit down and actually design it in a modern architecture, using microservices, using segmentation, using actual data security, right? I keep seeing, by the way, I don't know if you guys see this, a lot of hate for Active Directory, like federated Active Directory. There's a lot of this Active Directory is a thing of the past. It's a dinosaur. Use cloud native. And it's usually somebody trying to convince you that the AWS identity model is better. You guys see a lot of that too? Like that?
Yeah, this is a fun topic, but I think that people have been scarred for life with AD. They definitely met some of those people who were scarred for life, but I don't know, and I don't have an opinion on this one, honestly, because I don't know if they were scarred for life 10 years ago and now they're wrong, or were they scarred for life 10 years ago and they're still right. I don't know that. So
I think identity models, I always call this the Anna Karenina principle of clouds. Tolstoy opens, every happy family is alike. No, hear me out. Every happy family is alike. Every unhappy family is different in their own way. I think identity models are the unhappy families. They're all different, and you need to understand the differences, but ultimately you're going to be unhappy no matter what.
So on that happy note, let me ask you a self-serving question, perhaps.
Oh, okay. Never on that.
No, so it's a you-serving question. It's not a self-serving question. It's a guest serving question. We have one of those.
I know where he's going with this.
No. I'm not gonna go. What if I ask?
Go ahead. Ask the question. You're killing me. The suspense is killing me. Ask the damn question.
He just wants to answer the question, Anton. Give him the question.
Okay. So the question.
Give me the question.
It's coming. Wait a second. Okay. We hear that you work for an NDR vendor. And
You heard correctly.
NDR in the cloud is somewhat contentious. Some people think NDR in the cloud is awesome. Some people think NDR in the cloud is like so 90s. Give us your network security NDR take in the cloud. Like,
I will tell you this. I have spoken to a couple that have been here 7 months now. I've talked to those people that will tell you, that have told me that packet capture NDR in the cloud, it's not worth the time. Look, we have VPC flow logs, and look at all this good stuff we can get. We can get, and my response to that is cool. But ultimately, the truth and the authority on anything infrastructure lies in the content of the packet. Being unable to actually pull the packet apart, understand its intent, its full contents, whether it's hiding something, right? Because we know you can stuff things into packets that aren't supposed to be there, DNS, and you get. I think the what you get if you implement network detection and response is a way to have a transparent, or not transparent. What am I looking for? Like you don't know that I'm watching you, right? Like I'm watching you, but you don't know I'm there because I'm watching a copy of your traffic.
Passive,
as opposed to,
I get it. Yeah, not transparent.
Right. So
TLS 1.3. Let me just throw the hand grenade that I've been wanting to throw at every NDR vendor for a couple of years now. What about TLS 1.3? When I profiled traffic on GCP, I saw 98% of traffic on 443 compared to 80. So, like, what are you going to do to get the contents packets in a 1.3 world where you can't pop the encryption so easily?
You pop the encryption so easily. I mean, you have a. Do you remember back when forwarding proxies existed? And you're like, oh well, how are we going to solve this?
Is the vendor with the tech to do it? So it's like you really plant. I think Raf planted this question because literally,
I'm pretty sure Tim didn't know this, but we're literally the only one.
Like we're from Gartner days.
Oh damn!
We are literally the only ones that have 1.3 transparent. Like
they're the vendor who can do.
Boom!
It was not meant to be a softball, listeners.
No, but like this is a different.
Back.
No, listen. This is. By the way, we agree with you as an organization clearly because we spend a ton of engineering time and many brilliant minds drank a lot of coffee or at least tea over the question, and the answer was you gotta get in that conversation stream. But that's the same argument, and I don't mean to belittle what your thought process here, but that's the same conversation I had with people putting in IPS in the mid 2000s. Like, well, what if everybody just encrypts everything? I'm like, okay, then we look inside the encryption stream. Like, we have to see what's in the packets. Profiling like SFlow, NetFlow, all that stuff, cute, great. You can see it's, but sampling doesn't work. We've seen it. We know it doesn't work. Being able to build behavioral models, and this is where I think that it's even more applicable than a lot of people think. Being able to build behavioral models at scale, right? 100 gig, whatever, right? 50 gig, in between VPCs, in between zones, in between wherever. Being able to watch that traffic to see exactly what's going on. And I'll tell you guys why. A long time ago, I used to work for this large global company, has 2 letters in it. I'll let you figure out which one that is. But I was a third party to an incident where they had the SIM, they had the IPS, and it was one of the best ones at the time. They had the firewall infrastructure, they had done the AppSec, they had a WAF, and they had network monitoring, application monitoring, database monitoring, and all kinds of user analytics monitoring, okay? They were in 2 separate silos. We came to know that there was a breach that happened where somebody basically backed up the Hoover vacuum to their database, pulled it all out. They're like, how could this have happened? How could none of our security tools have detected SQL injection? They're like, oh, well, blame it on the fact that it was encryption. Yes, that's it. The front end traffic from the user to the application was encrypted. That's the problem. They're like, no, because you got like a bunch of suspicious events that happen. Like, well, okay, then the IDS didn't catch it. The SIM didn't catch it. It bypassed our WAF. Like, what happened there? And the thing is, the security kit said, this is weird. Somebody should look at this. But like every security device that says that medium level, like this is weird alert, somebody's going to get right to that 2 days after never, right? Because that's in that stack of 10 million things they're never going to get to, because it's not Sam Kinison screaming at them, critical, right? And so here's the problem. If they would have switched over and looked at the network side of it, stovepipe, two sides never talk to each other. Application performance, the CPU on the app got a bump. It got connections from someplace in the world it never had before. It had traffic at a time when nobody ever used the application before in that volume. It had the database hits, the queries per user went exponentially up. The rows returned per query went up by like 10,000%. And so, but what did they do, right? The database team logged in, ran some checks, said, oh, everything's fine. Weird. The problem resolved itself. But as a security person, I'm looking at going, somebody just stole your entire database. Why does Oracle go to 99.9% CPU? Select star. That's the only reason, or you've borked a query. But the problem is you could never see those things. I'm going to tell you, our platform, and I'm sure other NDRs that don't suck if they exist besides us. Sorry, couldn't help myself.
Okay, we're charging you with an ad. Fine. Sponsor.
Listeners,
no,
but
think about
the podcast being ad free. Welcome to the new ad.
Okay, yes, we are ad free. Yes. No, that's good.
I apologize, but look, listen. When you look at the entire packet stream, and this is cloud or infrastructure, you can see the way things behave. And if you're looking at it from a performance perspective, that's hugely helpful. But I just on our podcast, literally an hour before this one, we recorded with Sergio, formerly of Microsoft and other in Dragos and like the threat intel guy, right? In what we're trying to do in security right now, largely, even in the cloud, is detect things by pattern or by artifact. So this IP address is bad. This file hash is bad. This thing should not do. What we're not looking at least not effectively, because we don't have the tools if you don't put NDR in place, is, well, these 7 things, this is an application group. These 7 things talk to each other in this profile after observing them for a period of time. And then you get this one thing that's like, that's weird. Why is that thing doing that, right? And now you've got something to investigate. It's not a red beacon of like, hey, you're being attacked or hacked. It's not that, smiling kitten, glitter panda, whatever the hell is attacking you. It's this is weird. And that's where
I'm going to look up, is there a favorite glitter panda?
This is where good security, this is where good security starts. When you look at something and go, that shouldn't be happening, or that doesn't look right. Because once we automate the heck out of pattern-based security, which I think we're getting close to, right? Patterns-based security is kind of hitting that event horizon where the benefits are going to level out, and in fact, probably over time start to slowly decrease. We've hit the top of that inverse hockey stick. This is where behavioral-based analysis comes in, right? When we've got actual uses for algorithms and machine learning, where you can feed it tremendous amounts of network volume across your entire cloud infrastructure and your legacy infrastructure back home, right, in the data center, and go, okay, I see everything. Everything's great. No security alerts, but there's suddenly a web server trying to make DNS requests. That's weird.
Yeah.
Or, or the classic.
Start finishing. We are over time, and I'm afraid our audience will
I hate that. Sorry, I talk a lot.
Yeah.
No, it's all good.
We all do, frankly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we do a podcast. I have to ask our traditional closing questions. Do you have one tip on cloud security that isn't deploy ExtraHop? And 2, any recommended doing? I'll take that one for free.
Yeah. So the one tip I would say is, if you're a security function and you're hearing that your organization is going to make that move, if you're going to go cloud, I don't care who you have to bribe, get into the initial conversations, because by the time you get into discussions of architecture, it's too late and you've lost. And then you're back to trying to bolt things on, and it sucks.
Yep.
What am I
like that one a lot.
reading?
It could be
What am
reading
I
anything.
Yeah,
In
the
fact,
range
people
can
recommend all
be
kinds of stuff.
from your own blog to Dune. I don't know anything.
I'm rereading. Hold on, let me grab my book. See, hold on. Now you get to do this. I totally forgot about that question, and I had to leave. So I'm rereading a Howard, rest his soul.
It's the 90s. What is it? 2004? What book? What year is this?
You're gonna laugh, but I think this is. Gosh, when did he write this? 2006. Close enough.
6, not 2004. I was almost right. Got it.
So this is why I think something like this is important, because we tend to forget the lessons that we learned back then, and we tend to think that, hey, everything is new, none of the old stuff applies. Let's forget it. And it's staggering. Like, you go through some of the old like hacking exposed books, you're like, oh my god, all these things are alive and well today. We just called them something else. So part nostalgia.
So on that topic, yeah, we should probably start closing, because this book is I'm pretty sure it's gonna fly off the shelves now, if it's on the shelf.
Yeah, you're not. So I even got mine autographed by the man. So I'm pretty excited. I love this. I love it. I recommend, if you haven't read Patrolling Cyberspace by the incomparable Howard Schmidt, and then are you even in cyber?
Okay, fine. On that note, thank you very much for being a guest on our first ever live video session. And of course, thank you for all the setup advice. And well, hope to see you next time somewhere on your podcast.
Somewhere. Thanks, you guys.